When the alien fleet laid eyes on a human battleship, terror swept through them. Sci-fi. The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky, glittering like tiny sparks of fire. In the quiet of space, silence ruled, but silence was never truly empty. Somewhere in the distance, a fleet moved slowly. Its presence felt like a shadow falling over the light of the nearby star. The ships were long and thin, their surfaces shining like polished metal. They moved with deadly precision, and each one carried weapons that could destroy a planet. This was the fleet of the Zorvans, a race known across many systems as ruthless conquerors. They had never met resistance they could not crush. Planets fell before them. Civilizations ended before they could fight back. The Zorvans believed no being in the galaxy could ever match their power. Admiral Curl, the leader of the fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship. His eyes, dark and cold, scanned the stars ahead. He had led thousands of battles and had never known fear. His crew waited silently, knowing that even the smallest mistake in his presence could lead to death. Disarmed, the fleet was tense, but they felt secure. They were the strongest force in this part of the galaxy. Nothing could stop them. "Admiral, sensors detect movement ahead," a young officer said, her voice steady but slightly strained. Krell did not move his eyes from the stars. "Show me," he said quietly. The officer's fingers danced over the controls. On the screen, a small blip appeared. At first, it seemed like nothing, just a speck in the vastness of space. But as it came closer, it became clear that it was a single ship. One ship, alone. The Zorvans had never expected to see a human vessel here, so far from known space. Humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak. And yet, this one ship was moving with complete confidence, as if it belonged in the middle of the armada. "Impossible," another officer whispered. "It can't be just one ship." Admiral Carroll's voice cut through the quiet. "Bring it up on full scan." The crew tried, but the scans failed. The ship seemed to absorb all their signals. Their instruments could not read its size, its shape, or even its power. Every scan returned a blank, as if the vessel did not exist. Krell's brow furrowed. He had never faced anything like this. Not even the most dangerous enemies in his career could hide from the Zorvans' technology. But here was a human ship that could. He felt a strange sensation he had never known before. Fear. On the human side, Captain Eric Dale stood on the bridge of his battleship, watching the approaching alien fleet. The ship was enormous, built for endurance and strength rather than speed. Its hull was armored thickly, reflecting the faint glow of nearby stars. It had weapons so large that any other species would consider them impossible. The crew worked in quiet harmony, each person knowing their role, each movement precise. There was no panic, only calm and a sense of purpose. Eric walked along the bridge, his boots clicking against the floor. He stopped by the command chair and looked out at the alien fleet. "They don't know what's coming," he said quietly. Commander Lisa Grant, his second in command, stood beside him. She looked worried, though she tried not to show it. "They outnumber us 10-1, she said. "Do you really think we can hold them off?" Eric smiled faintly. "They won't attack if they are afraid. Fear makes them hesitate, and hesitation gives us an advantage." Lisa studied the ships on the view screen. She had trained for years to face dangers like this. Yet there was something different about this moment. Something felt alive, not in the sense of movement, but in the sense of presence. The human ship felt like more than a vessel. It felt like a promise of destruction, like a storm waiting to strike. As the Zorvan fleet drew closer, Admiral Krell ordered the ships to form attack positions. The metallic hum of their engines filled the void of space. "Prepare weapons," he said. "This human must be destroyed before it reaches firing range." The human crew, however, did not move their weapons. They remained in their stations, calm and silent. Eric watched the alien fleet, knowing that every moment they hesitated increased the aliens' doubt. Then, the first strike came. A plasma bolt shot from one of the Zorvan ships. It raced across the void, glowing bright blue against the blackness of space. On the human ship, alarms rang loudly, but the vessel did not move. The plasma hit the hull. For a moment, it looked like it would explode in a shower of sparks, but it did not. The hull absorbed the energy as if it were nothing. The plasma dissipated, leaving the ship untouched. The bridge of the Zorvan flagship went silent. Admiral Karel's hands tightened around the rail. He could not understand what he was seeing. Not one weapon had touched the ship. Not one shot had left a mark. It was impossible. On the human ship, Eric leaned forward slightly. "They are afraid," he said. Lisa nodded. "Yes."
I can see it. They are hesitant.
"They don't know what this ship can do." Eric's eyes did not leave the approaching fleet. "Good. Let them watch. Let them feel the weight of what they cannot understand." The human battleship slowly rotated its massive cannons into position. The sound of grinding metal echoed faintly through the ship. It was deliberate, slow, and terrifying. Each movement seemed to carry a message. The message was simple. This ship is ready to destroy any who dare come closer. In the Zorvan fleet, panic began to spread. Officers whispered to each other. "What is that ship made of?" one asked, voice trembling. Another said, "Our weapons do not work. It absorbs everything we fire." Admiral Karel's pride burned, but it was mingled with fear. He had never felt powerless, not in his life. Yet here he was, watching a single human battleship stand unbroken before his entire fleet. He barked orders, but each attempt to strike only reminded him of their helplessness. Meanwhile, the human crew prepared silently. Eric walked past officers and crew members, his presence calm and steady. "Stay ready, but do not panic," he said. "They will make the first mistake. And when they do, we end it quickly." The alien fleet tried again. Multiple ships fired at once. The space between the fleets lit up with energy blasts. For a moment, it looked as if the human ship might be overwhelmed. But the blasts vanished against the hull. Nothing happened. Not a dent, not a burn. The Zorvans watched in disbelief as their greatest weapons failed completely. On the human ship, Lisa felt a thrill of pride mixed with relief. "They can't even scratch us," she said. Eric nodded. "Fear works faster than weapons." "Watch and see." Admiral Krell gritted his teeth. He had led armies to victory across the galaxy. He had never lost. He had never felt such helplessness. Yet, here he was, watching a single human ship force him to reconsider everything he believed about strength and power. Hours passed. The alien fleet held in formation, hesitant to approach. They knew the human ship was dangerous, but they had no way to measure it. And fear, once it took root, spread quickly. In the Zorvan fleet, ships drifted slightly backward. Officers looked to each other, unsure of what to do next. On the human battleship, Eric watched their hesitation carefully. "Do not fire yet," he said. "Let them decide. Let them realize the mistake they made by coming here." Lisa placed a hand on the console. "Do you really think they will retreat?" Eric's gaze was steady, and cold. Not yet, but they will. Fear is stronger than pride, and we are the only ones who can make them feel it. The stars continued to shine coldly around them, different to the struggle below. But the battle was not just about weapons or numbers. It was about belief, about courage, about strength that no scan or sensor could measure. Admiral Carroll's pride began to crumble. He had always believed that no race could match the Zorvans, but here was a human vessel, alone, standing against an entire fleet, and it seemed to say without words, "Do not underestimate us." And slowly, across the alien fleet, doubt began to grow. The Zorvans had never faced hesitation like this. They had never faced a force that could not be measured or understood. And in the quiet moments of their fear, they realized that perhaps humans were not what they had been told. The human battleship remained calm, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Every crew member understood their role. Every eye watched the approaching fleet with steady determination. And for the first time in history, an entire alien armada saw what humans could really be.
For Admiral Krell, the realization was terrifying. He had faced countless enemies.
He had conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations, but he had never faced one ship alone that could make him question everything he had believed about the galaxy. And so, in the quiet of space, the first whispers of fear spread through the Zorvan fleet. A single human ship had done what no one else could. It had made the conquerors hesitate, and that hesitation would be the first step toward a reckoning they could not imagine. Eric stood silently, watching the stars. He did not speak. He did not need to. The ship's presence, its strength, and its calm determination spoke louder than any weapon could. The human battleship floated in the void, unyielding, unbroken, and ready. The Zorvans stared, knowing they faced something beyond their understanding. And in that moment, fear swept through them, marking the beginning of a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The Zorvan fleet drifted in the blackness of space, unsure what to do next. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced a force they could not understand. Ships that had once moved with perfect precision now jittered slightly, officers unsure of commands, the air inside their ships thick with tension. Fear spread like wildfire. Admiral Curl stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the human vessel. His hands were tight on the rail. He had always been proud, always confident. But now, for the first time, he felt the sting of doubt. He had faced enemies stronger, faster, smarter, but never one that could resist everything he threw at them. His scanners, the finest in the galaxy, could not penetrate the human ship's hull. Every weapon he had ordered to fire had failed. Not a dent, not even a mark. "What do we do now?" one officer asked quietly. Her voice trembled slightly. Krell's eyes narrowed.
"We try again," he said, but even as he said it, he felt the weakness in his words.
The human ship was not like any opponent he had faced before. Its calm, deliberate movements made him uneasy. There was power here that could not be measured, and the unknown was always terrifying. On the human battleship, Captain Eric Dale walked slowly along the bridge. He watched the alien fleet carefully, noting the smallest movements. Every ship that moved backward, every hesitation in their formation told him more than any scan could. Humans had a way of reading fear. It was instinct. And the Zorvans were afraid, though they did not yet admit it. Commander Lisa Grant stood beside him, watching the aliens with concern. "They're still out there, waiting. How long before they attack?" she asked. Eric shook his head. "They will attack eventually, but for now, they are thinking. And thinking makes them vulnerable." The human crew worked quietly. Each officer at their station knew what to do. Sensors tracked the Zorvan ships. Weapons were primed, but none fired. The ship itself seemed alive, like it was waiting for the right moment. A quiet tension filled the air, the kind that made every movement count. Back in the Zorvan fleet, the fear deepened. Officers argued quietly, but their voices held panic. "Admiral, their shields, our weapons do nothing." "I repeat, nothing," she said. Krell's jaw tightened. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. The humans were not merely defending themselves. They were standing, unbroken, in a way that defied everything he believed about the universe. He had always known the galaxy could be conquered. Now, that belief felt fragile. "Increase the energy pulse," he ordered. The officers obeyed. Beams of energy raced toward the human ship, a brilliant display of light across the void. But the beams vanished against the hull. The ship did not shake. It did not even flicker. And then, slowly, it turned slightly. Its cannons rotated into position, massive and deadly, yet calm. The sound of their movement echoed in the darkness like a warning. The Zorvans froze. The ship was not just defending itself, it was showing them its power. The aliens whispered among themselves, "It can destroy all of us," one said. Another shook his head. No, it cannot. Not one ship could do that." But deep down they knew. They felt it in the marrow of their bones. This human vessel was unlike anything they had ever seen. Eric watched the alien's hesitation carefully. "Do not fire yet," he said to his crew. "Let them feel it. Let them think they are still in control." Lisa frowned.
Are we really safe? Eric's eyes were steady. We are as safe as we need to be.
"They cannot hurt us, and we know it. All they have is fear now." Hours passed. The Zorvans tried again. Smaller ships moved forward, daring to test the human vessel. They fired their weapons in volleys, hoping to find a weakness. The blast struck the hull, but again nothing happened. The human ship seemed to absorb every attack. Its massive guns turned toward the advancing ships, and the aliens flinched. The smallest movement from the human vessel made them hesitate, like prey sensing a predator nearby. Krell's anger grew. His pride burned, but it was mixed with terror. He had never known a fight he could not control. And now, for the first time, he understood what it meant to feel powerless. "Increase the firepower! Crush them!" he shouted. The officers obeyed. Entire sections of the fleet fired at once. The space around the human ship lit up with energy. But even then, the ship did not move. Its hull shimmered slightly, almost as if it were smiling, showing the aliens that they could do nothing. On the bridge of the human ship, Eric leaned slightly forward. "They are afraid," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "They are thinking of retreat, but they won't admit it yet." Lisa's hand rested on the console. "It's unbelievable. They've never faced anyone like us." Eric shook his head. "No one has. And that is why we survive." In the Zorvan fleet, panic began to spread faster. Officers argued, ships jostled slightly as their captains tried to move them into better positions. But every movement seemed wrong. Every decision made the humans' power more obvious. The more they tried to attack, the more helpless they felt. Then, a new report came in. "Admiral, sensors detect a massive energy buildup on the human ship." Krell's eyes widened. He had expected shields or some defensive maneuver. But this was something different. The human vessel was generating power at levels that should have been impossible for a single ship. "What is it doing?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. The officer shook his head. "We don't know, sir. It's building energy. It's like a storm waiting to break." Krell's heart raced. He had never known fear like this, not even in the most dangerous battles. And now he realized something terrifying. If the humans fired at full strength, the entire fleet might be destroyed. Every ship, every crew, gone in moments. On the human ship, Eric noticed the aliens' hesitation. "They're scared," he said. "Let them stew in it. Let them realize what they have done by underestimating us." Lisa watched the display. "Do you think they will run?" Eric's gaze remained steady on the fleet. "Perhaps, but if they do, they will remember this moment forever. And if they stay, they will regret it even more." The human crew continued to work silently. Each person knew their role. Sensors tracked every alien movement. Weapons were ready, though no one fired. The ship itself seemed alive, like it could sense the fear in the enemy. Every rotation of the cannons, every adjustment of the hull, was deliberate, a signal of power that needed no words. In the Zorvan fleet, officers whispered in fear, "We can't destroy it," one said.
"Nothing works," another said. "It is only one ship. How can one ship be so strong?" Krell's pride burned, but it was powerless against the fear growing in his fleet.
The Zorvans had always relied on strength, weapons, and numbers. But here, none of those things mattered. One human ship had forced an entire armada to reconsider, to hesitate, to tremble. The hours stretched on. The humans did not attack, and yet the aliens felt as if a storm had already arrived. Every moment the human ship remained calm increased their fear. The Zorvans could not measure it, could not predict it. And fear, once it takes hold, spreads quickly. Finally, one of the smaller Zarvan ships broke formation. It moved backward slightly, as if seeking safety. Another followed, and another. The alien fleet began to shift, the first signs of retreat in centuries. But no one wanted to admit it. Pride held them in place, even as fear whispered that retreat might be the only choice. Eric watched carefully. "They are thinking about it," he said.
"Let them. We will see how far pride can go against fear." Lisa frowned.
"They might still attack. They are Zorvans." "They are stubborn," Eric nodded slowly. "Yes, they are stubborn. But even stubbornness has limits." The human battleship remained in the middle of the void, unyielding, unbroken. It was not just a ship. It was a statement. A message that humans could not be measured, could not be understood, and could not be defeated by pride or numbers alone. Admiral Curl stood in silence, realizing that this was unlike any moment in his long career. The galaxy had always belonged to the strong. But now he understood that strength came in many forms. And the humans had a strength that he could not touch, could not measure, and could not defeat. Fear had entered the Zorvan fleet, and once it was unstoppable. The longer they stared at the human ship, the more powerless they felt. Every movement they made was hesitant, every decision second-guessed. For the first time, they had no advantage. Eric walked back to the center of the bridge, his face calm. He did not smile. He did not need to. The presence of the ship, the quiet strength of his crew, and the fear it caused in the enemy spoke louder than any weapon. In the cold silence of space, a lesson had begun. One human ship had faced an entire fleet, unbroken and undaunted. One human ship had shown that fear could conquer pride, that presence could outweigh numbers, and that the galaxy was far larger than even the fiercest conquerors had imagined. The Zorvans continued to drift, unsure, afraid, and silent, and the human battleship waited, steady and patient, watching every move, ready for whatever came next. The Zorvan fleet hung in space, uneasy and silent. Every captain on every ship knew the truth. The humans were stronger than anything they had faced before. Yet no one wanted to admit it. Pride and fear were locked in a struggle inside their hearts. They were conquerors, used to being feared. Now, they were the ones who trembled. Admiral Corell stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the human battleship. His eyes were hard, but inside doubt gnawed at him. "We cannot let one ship challenge us like this," he said quietly, almost to himself. "It cannot be allowed." An officer stepped forward, her face pale. "Admiral, their energy readings are growing. They're building something." Massive. Krell's hand clenched the rail. "What do you mean?" The officer shook her head. "We do not know. It is, like a storm contained in the ship. If it is released..." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. On the human battleship, Captain Eric Dale watched the fleet closely. He knew the Zorvans were thinking. Fear was a powerful weapon, and right now, it was working. But fear alone could not win the day. Preparation and precision would. He walked along the bridge, passing crew members at their stations. Each one moved with calm, quiet confidence. Commander Lisa Grant followed him. "Do you think they'll attack?" she asked. Eric shook his head. "They are waiting. Pride makes them wait. They cannot strike until they are certain we are vulnerable, but they will never be certain." The human ship was massive, and every detail had been designed for survival and strength. Its armor reflected energy beams harmlessly. Its weapons were so powerful that any enemy that drew near would face destruction. And yet, it did not move aggressively. Its power was shown only when necessary, letting the enemy fear what they could not understand. Back in the Zorvan fleet, tension grew. Officers whispered nervously to each other. "Do we retreat?" one asked. "No," another snapped. "We cannot show weakness. If we retreat, the humans will see that even one ship can make us afraid." But deep down, every officer knew retreat might be the only way to survive. Every ship that had fired at the human battleship came back with nothing but failure. The human shields and hull absorbed all energy, and the massive guns of the human ship slowly turned, as if to warn them of the consequences of trying again. Krell's pride fought his fear. "We are the strongest in this sector," he said. "We do not retreat." But even as he said it, he knew they were vulnerable. The human ship had exposed a weakness that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. The inability to measure strength. The Zorvans could no longer rely on numbers or weapons alone. One human vessel had changed everything. Eric walked to the observation window and looked at the alien fleet. "They are still holding," he said quietly. "Good. Let them think. Let them feel the weight of their choice." Lisa frowned. "Do you really think they can destroy us all if we wanted them to?" Eric's gaze remained steady. "Yes. But we do not need to. All we need is patience. Fear is already working for us." The Zorvans tried again. Smaller ships moved forward to test the humans' defenses. They fired multiple volleys, hoping to find a weak point. Energy beams cut through the darkness, striking the human battleship with brilliant flashes, but the ship did not shake. The beams vanished, absorbed into the hull as if it were made of solid light. Krell's frustration grew. "How is this possible?" he shouted. "Nothing can survive this." An officer tried to answer. "Their technology, we cannot understand it. It is unlike anything we've seen." The human crew continued to work silently. Eric did not panic. He did not shout. He only watched, waited, and let the Zorvan's fear grow. His calm presence, the quiet confidence of his officers, and the sheer strength of the ship told a story the Zorvans could not ignore. This was no ordinary enemy. Hours passed. The Zorvans tried to coordinate attacks. They fired entire sections of their fleet at once. The space around the human ship lit up with a storm of energy, and still the human ship remained unbroken. Its massive weapons turned slowly, giving the impression that it was preparing for a response that could end the battle instantly. Admiral Curl realized something terrifying. If the human ship unleashed its full power, it could destroy the fleet. Every ship, every crew gone in moments, and the Zorvans had no way to stop it. Their pride made them hesitate. Their fear made them tremble. They were trapped between survival and humiliation. Eric watched the hesitation carefully. "They are afraid," he said to Lisa. "They are thinking of retreat, but they cannot admit it yet. Pride keeps them in place." Lisa nodded. "Do you think they will run?" Eric shook his head. "Not yet. But if they do, they will remember this moment forever. And if they stay, they will regret it." The human ship moved slightly. Its massive guns rotated into position. The aliens flinched, as if sensing a predator. Every adjustment was deliberate, slow, and terrifying. The humans did not fire, but the presence of their weapons was enough. It was a warning, clear and undeniable. One small Zorvan ship broke formation. It moved backward slightly, trying to escape the growing tension. Another followed, then another. Fear was spreading through the fleet faster than any orders could control. Officers argued quietly. Ships jostled as captains tried to find a solution. Pride fought fear, but fear was winning. Krell stood silently, realizing that retreat might be the only choice. He hated it, but the humans' calm, deliberate presence made him understand the truth. One ship, properly built and crewed, could break the strongest armada. On the human ship, Eric and Lisa watched the alien movements. "They are thinking," Eric said. "Let them think. Every moment we wait, they doubt themselves more." Lisa glanced at the display. "They might still attack," she said. Eric's eyes remained fixed on the fleet. "Perhaps, but no matter what they do, we are ready. And they know it." The energy on the human ship began to rise. It was subtle at first, a faint glow across the massive guns and the hull. But slowly it grew, pulsing like a heartbeat. The Zorvans noticed. Their whispers became frantic. "What is it doing?" one asked. "It's building power," another said, voice trembling. "Something enormous." The human crew remained calm. Eric walked along the bridge, watching every movement of the aliens. The energy buildup was controlled, measured, precise. They were preparing for any attack, ready to strike if necessary, but not rushing. Every second increased the aliens' fear, and every second made them weaker in spirit. The Zorvans realized the danger too late. Their pride would not let them retreat completely, but their fear had already taken hold. Ships that should have attacked were frozen. Officers who should have commanded were silent. And in that moment, The humans' plan was clear. Patience and precision had become their weapon.
Eric spoke quietly to Lisa.
They are trapped between fear and pride. We do not need to fire. They are already defeated in their minds. Lisa's eyes widened. It is incredible. They have never faced humans like this before. Eric nodded slowly. No one has. And that is why we survive. Hours turned into what felt like an eternity. The Zorvans drifted, their ships jittering, their crew unsure, their pride struggling to maintain control. Every moment of hesitation weakened them further. Every glance at the massive human ship reminded them of the power they could not match. Finally, one of the smaller Zorvan ships moved decisively backward, breaking formation entirely. Another followed, and another. The first signs of retreat began. Officers argued, but it was clear. Fear had begun to dominate. Krell stood frozen. He had always believed that the strongest force could command respect, that numbers and weapons were enough to crush any opponent. Now he understood the humans were different. One ship, one crew had changed the balance. The armada that had never lost was now in doubt. Eric watched silently, his face calm. He did not need to give orders. The human strength, their calm, their precision, and the fear they had planted in the enemy were enough. The alien fleet was beginning to understand something new. Humans were not weak, humans were not predictable, and humans were not to be underestimated. The Zorvans continued to drift, unsure, afraid and silent, and the human battleship waited, steady and patient, watching every move, ready for whatever came next. In the cold darkness of space, one simple truth had been proven. Fear could conquer pride, and patience could defeat numbers. Eric and Lisa looked at the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. The humans had shown their strength, and the galaxy had begun to take notice. The Zorvan fleet drifted in space, broken in spirit, though still proud in form. The ships that had once gleamed like silver blades now looked tense, jittering as if every moment could bring destruction. Officers whispered in fear. The pride of 1,000 years of conquest had been shaken by a single human battleship. Admiral Carell stood at the front of his bridge, silent, staring at the massive human vessel. He had never felt such helplessness. The humans remained calm. Their ship floated like a mountain in the void, unbroken, its massive weapons glowing faintly, building energy as if preparing for a storm. Captain Eric Dale watched the alien fleet carefully. Every small movement the Zorvans made told him more than any scan could. Fear had entered the enemy, and now it controlled them. Commander Lisa Grant stood beside him. "Do you think they will retreat?" she asked quietly. Eric shook his head. "Not completely. Pride will keep them here, but they are afraid, and that is enough for now. We control them." The human ship began a slow rotation, turning slightly so that all its massive guns faced the enemy fleet. The Zorvans flinched at every movement. It was deliberate and slow, but each adjustment was a warning. One ship, alone, had made the greatest conquerors in this sector hesitate. Admiral Carroll's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. We cannot defeat it." Officers looked at each other in panic. "Admiral, if we attack, we will lose everything," one said. "Their weapons, they are enormous. We cannot survive a full strike." Krell's pride fought against fear, but fear was winning. He had faced impossible odds before, but nothing like this. One human ship, unbroken, alone, had made him doubt everything he believed. The Zorvans had always conquered worlds because no one could challenge their strength. Now, for the first time, they faced an enemy they could not measure, could not predict, and could not destroy. On the human ship, Eric walked along the bridge, calm as ever. "They are trapped between fear and pride," he said. "Every second they stay, they weaken themselves further. All we need is patience."
Lisa watched the alien ships. Do you think they will attack again?
Eric shook his head. "Not if they know we'll destroy them. Pride will keep them here, but they are already defeated in spirit." The Zorvans tried again. A few ships fired their weapons, hoping to strike the human battleship. Energy beams raced across the void, bright and deadly. The human ship remained untouched. Its massive hull absorbed every strike. The aliens gasped as their strongest attacks failed. They had no answers. Every weapon, every tactic had been useless. The human ship had not moved aggressively. It did not need to. Its presence, its calm, and the quiet readiness of its crew told the Zorvans everything they needed to know. Humans were dangerous not because of speed or numbers, but because of determination, intelligence, and fearlessness. The energy on the human ship continued to rise. Slowly, deliberately, it built across the massive guns in the hull. It pulsed, a silent heartbeat of power. The Zorvans noticed. Panic spread through their fleet. "What are they doing?" one officer asked. "They are building power," another whispered. "Enough to destroy everything." Admiral Krell realized the truth. The humans could end the entire fleet with one strike. Pride had trapped them here. Fear had paralyzed them. They had nothing left. He had never felt so powerless. Eric watched carefully, reading every movement. "They know the risk," he said. "They are afraid. They have never faced humans like this before. And they will not survive if they continue to underestimate us." "Do you think they will surrender?" Eric shook his head slowly. "No. They are Zorvans. They cannot surrender. But they will retreat, or they will die. Either way, the lesson will be learned." Officers whispered, shouted, argued, but the result was clear. Fear had taken hold. Pride tried to hold them in place, but it could not overcome what the humans had shown. Admiral Curl stood frozen. He had always believed numbers and weapons were enough. Now he knew that courage, intelligence, and determination were far stronger. One human ship, alone, had forced him to reconsider everything he thought he knew about war. Eric walked slowly along the bridge, watching the fleet. The human crew remained calm, silent, ready. Every sensor, every weapon, every officer knew their role. The humans did not need to fire to win. Fear alone had achieved victory. Hours passed. The Zorvans drifted, unsure, trembling. Their pride and fear battled, but fear was winning. They had underestimated humans, and now they realized the mistake. One ship had changed the balance of power. One ship had made the greatest conquerors in this part of the galaxy reconsider everything. Finally, Admiral Carroll gave the order. "Pull back. All ships withdraw." The fleet moved in chaos. Ships jostled, collided, and scattered. Officers barked frantic orders, but it was too late. The humans' calm, deliberate power had broken their confidence. The Zorvans retreated without a battle, leaving the human vessel untouched. On the human ship, Lisa exhaled quietly. "They're running." Eric nodded. "Yes, they saw what humans are. They will remember this." Kevin Ross, the weapons officer, looked uneasy. Will they come back? Eric's gaze remained fixed on the stars. Perhaps, but next time they will remember this moment. And they will fear it. The human battleship remained steady in the void, unbroken, ready and waiting. Its massive guns glowed faintly, but they did not need to fire. The Zorvans had already learned their lesson. Every officer and crew member felt the weight of victory. It was not just survival. It was proof. Humans were strong. Humans were fearless. Humans could face impossible odds and remain unbroken. And the galaxy would not forget it. Admiral Curl's fleet disappeared into the distance. The conquerors had been forced to retreat, not because of numbers, not because of speed, but because of the courage, determination, and strength of a single human battleship. Eric turned to Lisa. They have learned today that humans are not to be underestimated, and we have learned something too. Patience and strength together are stronger than anything else. Ah, Lisa nodded. It's incredible. One ship, and they feared it. Eric looked out at the stars, quiet and thoughtful. Fear can defeat pride, but only if it is used with wisdom. Today, we did not just survive. We taught a lesson that will echo across the galaxy. The human battleship floated silently, a fortress of strength in the void. Its presence alone had shifted the balance of power. The galaxy had witnessed it, and across the stars, the legend of humans and their strength would grow. Far away, the Zorvans would tell their stories. They would speak of the human ship that no weapon could harm. They would speak of fear they had never known. And they would remember the lesson. When humans stood ready, calm and unbroken, even the greatest conquerors could be made to retreat. Eric and his crew remained on the bridge, watching the darkness. They did not celebrate loudly. They did not boast. They only remained vigilant, ready for the challenges that would come. But inside, they knew something powerful. Humans had shown their true strength. One ship had faced an entire fleet and survived. One ship had taught fear. One ship had changed the galaxy forever. And in that quiet moment, amid the stars and silence, humanity's age of strength began. The Zorvans would return one day, perhaps stronger, perhaps wiser. But they would never forget. They had seen what humans were capable of. They had felt the fear of a power they could not measure. And in the end, they had been forced to retreat. The human battleship remained a symbol of courage, strength, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to bow. Its crew would tell the story again and again, not of weapons or numbers, but of patience, courage, and the ability to make fear a weapon. Eric looked at the crew. "We did well today," he said quietly. "Not because we fought, but because we stood ready. They saw us for what we are, and they feared it."
Lisa smiled faintly. Yes, and they will never forget.
The stars shone above, calm and distant, as the human battleship floated alone, unbroken, ready for whatever came next. And somewhere in the darkness, across the galaxy, the story of that day began to spread. When the alien fleet laid eyes on a human battleship, terror swept through them. And now the galaxy knew that humans were not to be underestimated.